It's a typical bustling afternoon at one of Germany's premier airports, Düsseldorf Airport, which is ranked among the 20 largest in Europe. The date is April 11th, 1996. The airport's Terminal A is filled with the usual mix of hurried passengers, some eagerly awaiting their luggage, others rushing to catch connecting flights. Unbeknownst to the thousands of people moving through the terminal, a disaster was brewing just 10 feet above them, one that would become the worst airport fire in history. In the mid-90s, Düsseldorf Airport was undergoing transformations to accommodate increasing passenger volumes, reflecting Germany's reunified economic boom. Terminal A, a hub for both domestic and international flights, was typically alive with the rhythm of transient visitors and the orchestrated chaos of daily operations. On this particular spring day, the airport was operating at its peak capacity, setting the stage for an unexpected calamity. How the danger had unseen. At around 3:33 p.m., a taxi driver noticed something amiss. Sparks were falling from the ceiling in the arrivals area. He wasn't alone for long. Two firefighters from the airport fire department soon arrived, drawn by the unusual odor in the air, reminiscent of smoldering electrical wiring. It was a nearby flower shop employee who pointed out a thin column of smoke rising from a vent. This was no minor incident. Flames were hidden above the ceiling, waiting to burst forth. The taxi driver, positioned ideally at the curbside of the arrivals gate, was inadvertently the first to sense the impending disaster. His alertness to the falling sparks was crucial, but initially dismissed as an anomaly. Meanwhile, the two firefighters who arrived shortly after were part of a specialized airport unit more accustomed to aviation-related emergencies. This lack of specific training for structural fires significantly delayed the identification of the growing threat above them. During the early 90s, Düsseldorf Airport was bustling with activity, reflecting the resurgence in air travel following the end of the Cold War and the reunification of Germany. This period of growth necessitated extensive renovations and maintenance work across the airport. How the blaze unleashed. By 3:58 p.m., the fire, which had been smoldering unseen, suddenly exploded into a full-scale inferno, consuming the entire ceiling of Terminal A. The origin of the fire was traced to welding work being done earlier that day on an expansion joint of the elevated access road above Terminal A. Tiny droplets of molten metal had fallen onto the polystyrene insulation sandwiched between the ceiling and the road, a highly combustible material that had been heating up for hours. The insulation's slow combustion released gases that filled the space between the ceiling tiles and the road. When the temperature peaked, these gases ignited simultaneously, causing a massive flashover that engulfed the entire terminal in seconds. The fire, hidden just moments before, now raged openly, spreading rapidly and uncontrollably. The expansion joint where the welding took place was part of a broader initiative to enhance the airport's structural integrity and capacity. The decision to continue work during peak hours, however, demonstrated a critical oversight in safety protocol management. The welding that initiated the blaze was part of a series of efforts intended to upgrade the airport's infrastructure to handle increased traffic and larger aircraft. The choice of polystyrene for insulation beneath the welding site reflected a widespread industry practice, prioritizing cost over safety, a decision that would have catastrophic consequences. The specific welding task was to secure an expansion joint, a critical component designed to accommodate thermal expansion and structural movements. Unfortunately, the flammability of the materials used was grossly underestimated, setting the stage for disaster when combined with the high temperatures produced by welding, how the tragedy unfolds. The airport fire brigade, trained primarily for outdoor airplane fires, was unprepared for this type of indoor blaze. As the fire spread to the second level of the terminal, the Düsseldorf Fire Brigade was called in for reinforcement. By 4:07 p.m., it was clear the situation was dire. The fire was beyond the control of the limited resources initially deployed. Reinforcements from the city and neighboring municipalities arrived, bringing the total to 701 firefighters and 215 vehicles in an attempt to quell the blaze and rescue the thousands of people still trapped inside. Despite their efforts, the fire quickly claimed the lives of those who had been caught unaware. Among the victims were 9 passengers trapped in Air France's airport lounge, who tragically died from suffocation. Others were less fortunate, such as a group of people who fled to elevators in a bid to escape the rooftop of an adjacent car garage, only to be overcome by the thick smoke when the elevators opened into the burning first level. As flames took over the first and then the second levels of Terminal A, the airport's own fire brigade faced a scenario for which they were grossly unprepared. Their equipment and tactics, designed for jet fuel fires on tarmacs, proved inadequate against the fast-moving structural fire. This initial confusion and mismanagement exacerbated the rescue efforts, leading to delays in evacuating the upper levels of the terminal, where many victims were located. The rapid escalation of the fire took everyone by surprise, highlighting the inadequacy of the airport's emergency protocols for non-aviation incidents. The structural design of Terminal A facilitated the quick spread of the fire through its open-plan layout, exacerbating the challenges faced by the fire brigade. Critically, the building's ventilation system, which should have helped control the spread of smoke, instead acted as a conduit for the flames, pushing them through the terminal's multiple levels. This oversight and fire containment measures significantly hindered the efforts to control the fire and evacuate the building safely. After nearly 4 hours of intense firefighting, the blaze was finally declared under control at 7:20 p.m. The damage was catastrophic. Terminals A and B were destroyed, and it took several days before the airport could reopen, with only Terminal C operational. In total, 17 people lost their lives, and hundreds more were injured. The damage was estimated at over $600 million, a figure that highlighted the sheer scale of the disaster. The firefighters' struggle lasted until late evening, battling not only the flames, but also the heavy, toxic smoke that blanketed the terminal. The airport's design, with few fire barriers and multiple open spaces, facilitated the rapid movement of smoke and fire across floors. The reopening of the airport in just a few days was a testament to the resilience and urgency of the management, but the psychological and structural scars would prompt a reevaluation of airport safety protocols worldwide. The investigation that followed was thorough, revealing several critical failures. The welding work had been conducted without proper fire safety precautions, and the airport fire brigade had not been notified, which could have prompted a fire watch to be set up. Additionally, the airport lacked basic fire detection systems in the affected area. There were no smoke detectors, sprinklers, or fire doors in place, leading to the rapid spread of the fire. Despite the gravity of these failures, the trial that followed saw all defendants acquitted, with the court ruling that the tragedy could not be traced to any single individual's wrongdoing. Nevertheless, the lessons learned from the disaster were clear. The rebuilt terminals were equipped with modern fire safety features, including detectors, sprinklers, automatic alarms, and more robust construction materials to prevent such a catastrophe from occurring again. Post-disaster analysis criticized the airport's disaster preparedness and the lax enforcement of fire safety codes during construction. The investigation pointed to systemic failures at multiple levels, from the contractor's disregard for fireproofing regulations to the airport authorities' inadequate safety inspections. The aftermath of the fire not only changed regulations at Düsseldorf Airport, but also influenced global standards for airport design and emergency preparedness. The investigative process into the Düsseldorf Airport fire was meticulous, involving numerous fire safety experts, structural engineers, and legal authorities. The inquiry brought to light not only the immediate causes of the fire, but also systemic vulnerabilities in the design and management of airport facilities. One key finding was the lack of coordination between the construction teams and the airport's internal safety officers, which led to critical oversights in fire hazard management. This gap in communication and protocol enforcement prompted a reevaluation of safety practices at airports worldwide, emphasizing the need for comprehensive fire safety strategies that include all personnel and operations within the airport's ecosystem. The Düsseldorf Airport blaze stands as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of neglecting fire safety in public spaces. 17 lives were lost, and countless others were affected, all due to a series of preventable errors. Today, the airport is a symbol of resilience and a testament to the importance of rigorous safety standards. It is a place where every safety measure, no matter how costly or cumbersome, is implemented with one goal in mind: ensuring that such a tragedy never happens again. Reflecting on the disaster, Düsseldorf Airport today serves as a case study in the critical importance of comprehensive safety measures in aviation infrastructure. The tragedy of 1996 did not just lead to rebuilding, but to a fundamental shift in how safety is integrated into the architectural and operational planning of airports. The renewed focus on stringent safety protocols ensures that the memory of the blaze continues to drive improvements in fire safety standards. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay tuned for more gripping historical accounts.